Every person who claimed to know the final coordinates of the Amber Room ended up silenced before they could whisper the truth. $500 million in fossilized resin, gold leaf, and precious stones did not simply evaporate during the chaos of 1945. It was dismantled, packed into 27 massive crates, and scrubbed from the face of the earth, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a mounting body count that continues to grow decades after the guns of World War II fell silent. What was once hailed as the eighth wonder of the world has become the world's most expensive ghost, a haunting reminder that some treasures are cursed by the very hands that try to possess them. The story begins not with a mystery, but with a display of absolute opulence. In the early 18th century, the King of Prussia commissioned a room made entirely of amber, 6 tons of it, carved into intricate panels backed with gold leaf and adorned with mirrors that made the walls glow like liquid sunlight. It was a gift for Peter the Great, a symbol of an unbreakable alliance. For 2 centuries, it sat in the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg, a masterpiece of human craftsmanship that seemed untouchable. The walls were a mosaic of honey and fire, reflecting the power of an empire that believed its treasures would last forever. But the shifting tides of the 20th century turned this symbol of friendship into the ultimate prize of a global conflict. By the summer of 1941, the golden glow of the palace was replaced by the cold shadow of an advancing army. As German forces pushed deep into Soviet territory, the curators at the Catherine Palace realized the magnitude of the danger. They tried to hide the room, but time was their enemy. They attempted to dismantle the panels, but the amber had become brittle with age. It crumbled at the touch. In a desperate, failed gamble, they papered over the amber walls, layering thin sheets of wallpaper over the priceless resin, in the hopes that the invaders would mistake the masterpiece for a common, decorative room. It was a ruse born of panic, and it failed the moment the boots of the specialized looting units hit the palace floor. These units were not ordinary soldiers. They were experts trained to identify, seize, and transport the greatest cultural treasures of Europe back to the heart of the Reich. They saw through the wallpaper immediately. In just 36 hours, they performed a feat that historians thought impossible. With mechanical precision, they stripped the walls, packed the amber panels into 27 massive wooden crates, and shipped them toward the Baltic coast. The eighth wonder of the world was now cargo, moved by trucks and trains through a landscape being consumed by fire. The destination was Königsberg, a fortress city that served as the heart of East Prussian power. There, under the watchful eye of Dr. Alfred Rohde, a museum director and world-renowned expert on amber, the room was reassembled in a castle museum. For a few years, behind the stone walls of the fortress, the golden walls glowed once more for a select audience of high-ranking officials. But as the Allied forces began to squeeze the German lines from both the east and the west, the atmosphere in Königsberg shifted from triumph to absolute paranoia. The victory they had envisioned was rotting, and the treasures they had stolen were becoming liabilities. In early 1945, as the Red Army approached the city, the orders were given to hide the room again. Dr. Rohde supervised the dismantling, but this time there were no public displays and no official records of the transport. The crates were moved under the cover of darkness, diverted into the fog of a collapsing empire. When the Soviet forces finally broke through and leveled the city of Königsberg, the castle was a smoking ruin. The dust settled, the fires were extinguished, but the amber room was nowhere to be found. The official narrative suggests the room was destroyed in the British air raids, or the final Soviet assault, burned to ash along with the museum. However, those who have spent their lives hunting the treasure point to a far more calculated possibility. They speak of secret convoys moving through the mountain passes, of trains diverted into deep underground tunnels that had been blasted into the salt mines of Central Europe. They speak of ships that left the Baltic ports with heavy, mysterious cargo, only to disappear beneath the icy waves. The disappearance of the Amber Room wasn't just a casualty of war, it was a deliberate act of concealment by those who knew the war was lost and wanted a bargaining chip for the future. It was hidden by men who understood that while regimes fall, gold and amber maintain their power. The darkness of this thriller lies in the fate of those who got too close to the secret. The mystery is protected by a wall of silence that has proven lethal for decades. Dr. Alfred Rohde, the last man known to have seen the room intact, died of typhus just as the Soviet secret police were preparing to interrogate him. His wife died at the same time. The doctor who signed their death certificates disappeared shortly after. The records of Rohde's research and the specific location of the crates vanished with them, as if a hand had reached out from the shadows to wipe the slate clean. As the decades passed, the shadows claimed more victims. In the 1980s, a prominent treasure hunter named Georg Stein became obsessed with the Amber Room. He claimed to be on the verge of a major discovery, possessing documents that linked the crates to a specific location in a German forest. Before he could present his evidence, he was found dead. The circumstances were never fully explained, and his extensive folder of cryptic notes and maps was missing from his home. It is a recurring pattern in the history of the room. The closer one gets to the light of the amber, the faster the darkness closes in. There is a psychological weight to this mystery that transcends the value of the amber itself. The hunt for the room has driven men to madness, financial ruin, and social isolation. It is a siren song made of petrified sap. Some believe the room was loaded onto the Wilhelm Gustloff, a transport ship that was torpedoed in 1945. If true, the world's greatest treasure lies at the bottom of the Baltic Sea, surrounded by the remains of the 9,000 souls who perished in the sinking. Others look to the ground beneath their feet, searching the thousands of miles of abandoned salt mines and bunkers that honeycomb the borderlands of Germany, Poland, and the Czech Republic. In the late 1990s, a single panel from the room suddenly surfaced in Germany. It was a mosaic made of stone and amber, and it was being sold by the son of a deceased soldier who had participated in the original looting. This fragment was the first physical proof in half a century that at least some of the crates had survived the fires of Königsberg. It reignited a global frenzy. If one panel survived, why not all 27 crates? If a soldier could hide a piece of history in his attic for 50 years, what else is tucked away in the private basements of families who prefer to keep their wartime secrets buried? The search has led investigators to the depths of the Silver Lake in the Czech Republic and into the dark recesses of the Owiski Mountains. Every few years, a new lead emerges, a deathbed confession from a former guard, a declassified intelligence map, or a ground-penetrating radar scan that shows anomalies deep underground. And yet, every time the world holds its breath, the earth yields nothing but dirt and rusted metal. The Amber Room remains a phantom, a 500 million vacuum in history. Some suggest the room was never moved at all, that it still sits in a forgotten basement beneath the ruins of Kaliningrad, the city that rose from the ashes of Königsberg. They argue that the Soviet government may have even found it and kept it hidden, using it as a ghost to haunt the West, or perhaps concealing the fact that they accidentally destroyed it themselves during the heavy shelling of the city. To admit to the destruction of a national treasure would have been a political catastrophe for the Kremlin. In this version of the story, the silence is not a mystery, but a state-sanctioned cover-up, a lie maintained to protect the pride of a nation. The Amber Room represents the ultimate heist, a theft of identity and history. When the panels were stripped from the walls of the Catherine Palace, it wasn't just about the gold. It was about erasing the prestige of a rival. The fact that it remains missing serves as a permanent scar on the history of art. We are left with a modern reconstruction, a beautiful but hollow shell completed in 2003, which serves only to remind us of what we are missing. The original panels, if they still exist, would likely be darkened by age, their golden hue turned to a deep blood-red orange, trapped in a place where no light can make them glow. This is not a story of a lost object, but a story of human obsession and the lengths to which people will go to protect a secret. The curse of the Amber Room is not supernatural. It is the natural consequence of chasing a secret that powerful people and powerful institutions want to keep hidden. When you look for something worth $500 million, you aren't just looking for art. You are digging into the secrets of intelligence agencies, the hidden wealth of fallen regimes, and the crimes of men who have long since passed away, but whose influence still lingers in the shadows of European history. Is it possible the room was simply burned to ash? Experts note that amber is highly flammable. In the intense heat of a firestorm, the fossilized resin would have burned like coal, emitting a thick, sweet-smelling smoke that would have filled the air for miles. If the Castle Museum burned, the eighth wonder of the world would have been nothing more than a scent on the wind. Yet, the absence of any melted residue or charred remains in the castle ruins keeps the hope alive. As long as there is no proof of its destruction, the crates remain out there in the collective imagination. The truth likely lies in the gray areas of the post-war era. During the transition from the collapse of the Third Reich to the beginning of the Cold War, the chaos allowed for the movement of massive amounts of looted wealth. The Amber Room, being so large and fragile, would have required a massive logistical effort to move. Someone saw it. Someone signed the transport orders. Someone drove the trucks. The silence of those thousands of people is the most unsettling part of the mystery. It suggests a level of organization that survived the end of the war, a shadow network that ensured the treasure would never be found by the victors. Today, the file on the Amber Room remains open in the minds of historians and the hearts of adventurers. It has become the ultimate symbol of lost gold, but with a sharper, more jagged edge.
We have breaking
Every
news
time a
tonight.
new tunnel is discovered or a new shipwreck is located, the world waits for the glint of gold. But perhaps the room is exactly where it needs to be, hidden in the darkness, away from the greed and the violence that led to its theft in the first place. Some things are lost for a reason. Whether it lies in a flooded mine, a sunken hull, or a secret vault, it remains the ultimate prize of a war that never truly ended for those who still seek it. The crates are out there, somewhere, waiting for the light to hit the amber once more. But until that day, it remains a dark thriller with no final chapter, a story written in gold and shadows, where the price of the truth is often higher than the value of the treasure itself. We are left to wonder if the search itself is a trap. The more energy we spend looking for the ghosts of the past, the more we realize that the people who took the Amber Room intended for it to be a secret forever. They didn't just steal a room, they stole the ending to the story. And in the world of high-stakes heists and historical mysteries, a story without an ending is the most dangerous kind of all. The gold leaf may have peeled, the mirrors may have cracked, and the amber may have crumbled, but the mystery remains as solid as the day the crates were nailed shut and moved into the fog. As the years pass and the witnesses die out, the Amber Room drifts further into the realm of legend. But legends don't have body counts. The Amber Room was a physical reality, a weight of 6 tons that required muscle and machinery to move. It is still out there, somewhere in the cold, dark earth of Europe, waiting for someone to find the key to the 27 crates. But as history has shown, Those who find the key rarely live long enough to turn the lock. The room doesn't want to be found. It wants to remain a secret buried in the dark, where the gold doesn't have to shine for anyone.